The Eagles have done it. They're back in the NFC Championship game after thoroughly dominating the New York Giants at home in Lincoln Financial Field in the NFC Divisional game. This game wasn't even close from the get-go. A final score, 38-7. Philadelphia just on a different level from the New York Giants. And really from the jump, they proved to New York that they cannot be messed with. And they proved to the rest of the NFL that they are legitimate Super Bowl contenders. And in the process, they bring out the brooms on the New York Giants, and they defeat New York for a third time this year, which makes this victory even more special. A final score of 38-7. And really the big takeaway for this game is the fact that Jalen Hurts was healthy, and Jalen Hurts looked good to go. Coming off that shoulder sprain that he suffered more than a month ago against the Chicago Bears, there were a lot of looming questions about his injury status heading into this game. He was going to play, we knew that, but could he complete every throw on the football field? Could he elevate his teammates? Could he be the MVP caliber quarterback that we saw prior to that injury? He answered those questions, and I thought that Jalen Hurts looked really good in this football game. And right from the jump, the Eagles were able to set the tone from the start. They get the opening kickoff, and they drive down the field. 8 plays, 75 yards in less than 5 minutes. It was all highlighted by that deep ball from Jalen Hurts to Devontae Smith, who had a great night tonight. And when you saw him unleash that football, you saw a quarterback that looked in a prime position to have a good night, where the shoulder wasn't ailing him. It was accurate, it was in stride, it flipped the field, it set the tone, it set the momentum in a game in which Eagles fans were fired up for, because they had been tailgating for this game, 8:15 p.m. Eastern kickoff, since 8 a.m. in the morning. That got the crowd into it, it got the juices flowing, and it had everybody believing that this Eagles offense that really hadn't played well since going back to Week 14 against the Giants in the first matchup in the Meadowlands was going to be able to put together a game. Couple plays later, Jalen Hurts able to hit Dallas Goedert with the touchdown throw, in which Goedert caught the ball with one hand, broke a tackle, and really just showed this level of physicality, which also set the tone in this football game. And all throughout the week, I had said, Dallas Goedert, you have to get him involved. He can be the MVP for this offense, given what TJ Hawkinson for the Vikings did against this Giants defense last week. I was so happy to see Dallas Goedert inserted and involved in this game plan right from the jump. And how about A.J. Brown? Didn't have the biggest night in terms of catching the football, but some of his blocks down the field goes to show you the culture and the belief that this locker room has in this football team here, that they're legit, that they have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Because A.J. Brown, with a couple of blocks downfield, was critical to the Eagles having a couple of big plays, including some touchdowns. And for this Eagles defense, Jonathan Gannon, shout out to you. For the first time in a little while, Jonathan Gannon was actually aggressive. He stacked the box. He had complex and multiple defensive looks in which sometimes he showed the blitz but backed off. Other times he did send some pressure on Daniel Jones. And Daniel Jones had carved up Minnesota last week. He had his best game as a pro. This is a Giants organization that hadn't made it to an NFC Championship game since 2011. They were feeling confident going into this game. But the Eagles were able to really throw some cold water on that hot flame early in the first quarter to show them, we beat y'all twice. We're going to beat you a third time, and it's not even going to be close, and we're going to show everybody out there why Daniel Jones is not a franchise quarterback. And this Eagles defense certainly came to play, led by Jonathan Gannon. I thought that Haason Reddick was all over the place. And what's the theme of what we talked about so far? It's Haason Reddick. It's A.J. Brown making some really important plays. And that's why you pay big money to some of these big-ticket free agents, is to show up on nights like this where you really have to put your balls on the table to try to advance in the NFL playoffs, because we've seen time and time again that weird things happen in the playoffs. But there was never a concern. There was never an upset that the Giants would pull off, or never a concern, I should say, or a worry that the Giants were going to pull off that upset. And the Eagles didn't let it happen. And they didn't let it happen right from the opening kickoff. They put the pedal to the floor, and they put a beat down on the rival New York Giants, which was oh so beautiful. Now, today's show is presented by Magic Spoon, which tastes even sweeter with an Eagles victory. Magic Spoon, I've started to include it in my diet, and it's been a game changer. This is a revolutionary cereal that's changing the game. Say goodbye to sugary processed cereals and hello to delicious, nutritious options that will power you throughout the day. Magic Spoon, the perfect choice for anyone looking to start the new year off right on the right foot with a variety of flavors to choose from like cocoa, fruity, frosted, and peanut butter. You'll never get bored, and with only 140 calories per serving, it's a guilt-free breakfast option. But the best part, for the Fly Eagles Fly family, Magic Spoon packed with 13 to 14 grams of protein and 0 grams of sugar, making it the perfect choice for those following a keto or gluten-free diet. And with the 100% happiness guarantee, you have nothing to lose by giving it a try. Order your own personalized Magic Spoon variety pack today and save $5. That's right, save $5 by using the code CHAT at magicspoon.com/chat or scan the QR code that we've been showing you. Trust us, you won't regret it. Start your day off right with Magic Spoon. Going back to this Eagles defense here, we talked about the pass rush, and really everybody was involved. Brandon Graham had a sack. Josh Sweat was active. I thought that Haason Reddick early and throughout the game was fantastic. Even Javon Hargrave, Jordan Davis, everybody was getting in on the action. But how about James Bradbury on that back end to get his revenge on the New York Giants? Oh, so beautiful. And his interception of Daniel Jones really came at a very critical moment of this football game, where the Giants trying to claw back, and Daniel Jones throws that pick in, which James Bradbury read it the entire time. Giants try to go no huddle. They try to go fast pace. Jones drops back. Bradbury reads his eyes. He sees where his receiver is. He bolts for that spot and ends up intercepting that football. And for James Bradbury, what a night it was to get back at the Giants in the divisional round. As for Jalen Hurts, really the biggest storyline of this football game, Jalen Hurts looked damn good. He accounted for 3 touchdowns in the first half. I loved the play calling and the play design and the overall offensive thought from Nick Sirianni as well as Shane Steichen. The design runs to the perimeter for Jalen Hurts allowed him to avoid hits, to take hits on that shoulder. They didn't really run him in between the tackles like they did far too often against the Chicago Bears. And I thought that was important because for this Eagles offense, they're their most dynamic when Jalen Hurts is a dual threat guy. If he can't run it, then the defense has really not as much to think about, which dumbs down and waters down what this Eagles offense wants to do. But if you show the threat of the run, that's when this Eagles offense can be what was at points this year the best and most explosive and most consistent offense on the field and in the NFL, with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, this great offensive line, as well as Jalen Hurts. So for Hurts, a very good sign in this game, because he finishes the ball game by showing the opponent in which the Eagles will take on next, whether it's Dallas or San Francisco, that he's looking solid. 16 of 24 through the air, 154 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. And then he also ran the football 9 times for 34 yards. I do want to talk about running the football here, because this was one of my biggest talking points all throughout the week. We knew that Jalen Hurts was somewhat banged up. We knew that that shoulder wasn't 100%. Jalen Hurts said it himself. Ian Rappaport had reported on it. So I had said in the lead up to this game, in 2 matchups against the Giants this year, Eagles ran the ball effectively. More than 200 yards in the first go-around, more than 100 yards in the second go-around. If Hurts isn't feeling well, then put this offensive line in a position where they can feast, where they can eat, where they can have success, where they can get downhill, set the tone, and really tell the Giants that we're going to own you all throughout the night. And that's what the Eagles did, and they didn't stray away from that. 44 carries tonight for Philadelphia for 268 yards, average yards per carry of 6.1 with 3 touchdowns. Touchdown for Kenneth Gainwell, touchdown for Jalen Hurts, touchdown for Boston Scott, the Giant killer, who now has 11 touchdowns in his career against the Giants, and 18 total throughout his NFL career. Shane Steichen and Nick Sirianni stuck with the game plan, and they realized that running the football could be very effective in this game, and they did it. I thought that Miles Sanders was great. I know that Kenny Gainwell is going to steal the headlines with 12 carries for 112 yards. The long of 35 was the touchdown that made it 38-7 to put the exclamation point on this game. But Miles Sanders, when it mattered, was terrific. Patient, let his blocks set up. He had really good vision and a couple of critical runs in this game on third downs. And speaking of third downs, the Eagles really good in those aforementioned critical moments on some of those third down conversions. Lastly, this was a game, before we start taking your questions, between two teams on completely different levels. The Eagles are the number 1 seed in the NFC. They won the NFC East. They made the playoffs last year in a rebuilding year, and then Howie Roseman put this organization in the spot where they had a straight-up loaded roster. The Giants, on the other hand, beat a fraudulent Vikings team last week, and they really maximized what anybody had expected for their team this year here in 2022. They had really no reason to be on the same field as Philadelphia. And I'm so glad that the Eagles absolutely, thoroughly beat them down, not just because they're a rival, but because they handled what they had to do against an inferior opponent. They didn't mess around like the Chiefs did for a little bit today against the Jacksonville Jaguars, despite that Patrick Mahomes injury. They didn't fall as a number 1 seed like the Packers did last year to San Francisco. They took care of business, and in the process, I thought they made a statement to many teams across the NFL who had doubted them that they were in fact legit, and they're still playing, while a lot of other teams are still on the golf course. Let's start taking your questions as well as your super chats here on the show. Captain Delberto with the 5. I don't know how many times I had to clean the resin out of my bong from smoking after every touchdown. Well, a lot of touchdowns to celebrate. 38 points on the board for the Eagles. I'm glad he had a good night there, Captain Delberto. Alan Cruz with the $5 super chat. A huge congrats coming from a Raiders fan. Enjoy the dub. Thank you so much. And to all of you who tuned into our watch party, we do appreciate that, including you, the Raiders fan. Kanik Shep, $5 super chat. Man, those haters and doubters sure are pretty quiet. And not a lot of people have a lot to say about this Eagles victory tonight. Because when you look at the total statistics, it wasn't really close from a team perspective. Eagles had 26 first downs to the Giants 13, as this was very reminiscent of that game in Week 14. The Eagles on the third downs tonight, 10 of 14. The Giants, 5 of 13. Total plays, 69 to 52 in favor of Philadelphia. Total yards, 416 for the Birds, 227 for New York. They both had 10 drives, so those numbers, stark differences because the Eagles were so good. 148 passing yards to the Giants, 109. Yards per pass, 5.9 to 3.4. The Eagles sacked Daniel Jones 5 times and got after the quarterback consistently. Really, the big moment of this game, 268 rushing yards for Philly, 118 for New York. And in the red zone, the Eagles were nearly flawless. 4 of 5 in those red zone opportunities. 5 penalties for 25 yards. The Giants only had 1 penalty for 5. So it was evenly matched in terms of that. Not much of a discrepancy. And the Eagles still able to win by a final score of 38-7. So that does it for our post-game show here on Eagles Now. Say it with me. Fly, Eagles, fly. E-A-G-L-E-S. Eagles. Get into the comment section. And all throughout this week, you can expect the best coverage here on Eagles Now as we talk about the Eagles advancing to the NFC Championship game.